I did travel to Japan, and I gotta say, it's an amazing place. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. The people there are amazing. That being said, just normal travel in general, you usually do it by the trains or the subways. Mass transit's a big thing in Japan. We did ride on a specific train at one point in time, and it was the Shinkansen. And it was an amazing train, really enjoyable, comfortable. It really is quite an amazing achievement because it's so fast and yet it's so kind of peaceful. It just gently rocks you back and forth. Now, it's a new experience, and whenever you travel to new countries, it's all about the new experiences, but you can't let your intuition down, and that's where things really started to go awry. As we continued on in our journey, we found that we didn't really know what stop we were at, and the train wasn't making any stops. And now, in our car, there's nobody. If we go to look out the window, and it's just black, which is fine because it was night, but usually there's lights that should be passing by. You should see signs of civilization, people, cars driving. I mean, it's not very typical that you would be anywhere in Japan and not be able to see some lights. So I jump up and I try to find where we're at, like a conductor, somebody that I can just ask. You know, we got Google Translate. It's pretty easy with Google Translate to be able to get around and talk to almost anybody. I move to the train car ahead, and there's a man sitting on the left, and a little boy, and a young woman sitting on the right. When I move up past them, the man on the left seems to be asleep, or at least nodding off. I move forward more, and on the right, the young boy and the young woman seem to be sitting pretty quietly. The young woman's head is down. She's clearly asleep. But the young boy looks up at me, and he asks me if I'm here to play a game. And I'm just assuming he's going to be talking about like Pokemon Go or something, and he says the game with the train cars. You know, can I find the anomalies in the train cars? He proceeds to tell me that as I keep moving forward, that I will find anomalies in every train car, and that I'll have to go back if there's an anomaly, or go forward if there's no anomaly. So I just nod to the kid and move ahead. The bathroom is in between cars. I pass by the bathroom and then I move into the next train car, and I'll happen to notice that on the floor it says 7. I move forward a little bit more, and as I look around, everything kind of looks in its proper place, except the boy is gone, which is weird because the man that was on the left is now in this car, and the young woman that was on the right is also in this car, but the young boy is not. That being said, I just groggily go forward into the next car, and I look at the floor, and it says 7. And I'm not really picking up on this. I don't know what's going on. I was just in car 7. Why am I now again in car 7? What I notice is that the poster that's on the back of the train has a cat on the poster, but in the previous car, the cat on the poster was flat. The cat on this poster's eyes are popped out and are moving and tracking me. Needless to say, this is scary, and it definitely is something that freaked me out when I first saw it. So I went ahead and I ran backwards because I found, I guess, an anomaly. When I go backwards, I look at the floor, and it says I'm now in car number 6. And the game is starting to make sense that I'm playing on this train. I don't know what's ahead, but clearly something is off, and I need to practice extreme observation skills if I'm going to make it out alive. So I continue on in the car, and I'm looking all around me, and I don't see anything wrong. And as I'm moving forward to the front of the car, I hear kind of a cracking, and water starts pouring in from the window. And I'm freaking out because if the train is underwater, we're all gonna die. And the car starts filling with water fast, like really fast. There's a large volume of water coming in. So I turn and I run back because this is probably an anomaly. And as I'm running back, the water starts to fill enough that I can't move fast. My legs are restricted from the movement inside of the water. And eventually I make it to the door just as the water goes over my head. And I've taken a big breath and I kind of dive to the door, and the door opens and I go through the door, and then mysteriously I'm out of the water and the door shuts behind me quickly. I'm soaked and I'm scared and I don't know what's going on. And as I move forward to the next car, I look at the ground and it says 5. So clearly we're gonna count down all the way to 1 or 0. I take a deep breath and I start walking through the train car. And I look to my left, I look to my right, and everything seems kind of normal. Something out of the corner of my eye catches my attention, and I look to the left, and underneath the seat is a folded up person, like a piece of folded luggage, staring up at me from underneath that seat. Freaked me out. So, not wanting to walk by it, I turned around and I walked back the other way. And as I did, I could kind of hear some movements behind me as if that thing just got up. So I move a lot faster now, and I go through the doors and into the next train car, and I look down and it says 4. And at this point, I'm thinking, great, I'm doing this, whatever this is. I keep going in the train car. Things don't look off in this car at all. It looks really normal. I'm trying to pay attention to every little detail. I'm looking at the walls, the numbers, all the facial features of the people, the luggage in the top rack on the right. I'm even trying to study the ambience and the light. And I don't see anything. This looks like there's nothing off in this train car. And so I move forward. I pass through, everything still looks normal, and then I move in to the next train car. I look at the ground, and it says 4. Now moving into this train car, I can already tell something is seriously off. There are no seats in this train car at all. The man that was on the left is still there, but now he's standing upright, and the young woman is sitting in thin air. And knowing that there's something wrong with this train car, I just turn and I leave. So I move forward, and number on the ground says 3. I'm feeling more and more confident. I think, hey, we might be able to get off this train. Now I'm moving through, and this car looks pretty good. I don't see anything out of the norm. And just as I'm getting ready to turn and head out of the train car, I make one last observation, and I look back. And as I look back, it feels like something's off. I can't really tell, but it feels like the lighting is just a little off. I turn around and I go back through, thinking that it's an anomaly. And I move to the next train car, and it says 2. And I'm so happy that we're now in train car 2. And then something flashes by the window, and I look really closely in the window, and it's a pair of eyeballs looking in from outside of the glass. And no matter where I go, I see them just looking in on the glass. Clearly it's an anomaly. I go back, and now I look at the floor, and I'm on car number 1. And I'm so excited that I'm gonna be able to get off this train. I can feel it. The overwhelming joy of being able to get off of this train finally is incredible. So I go through this car, everything looks almost normal. And then I get to the young woman, and I look up at the luggage rack, and I see what legitimately could be considered a contortionist in the place of the luggage. And you can see their chest moving and their breathing. That was enough to freak me out. I turned and I ran, and as I turned to run, I could hear them jump down and start chasing me. So I ran even faster, back through the door. I ran into the next car, and then I got to car number 0. I went through it. Didn't look like there were any anomalies. I made it all the way through. I passed through the doors. And then as I'm moving through the doors, there's the interstitial area between the 2 trains. And it just means that in between the 2 train cars is a bathroom area. And the bathroom doors are normally closed, but the bathroom doors were open this time. And the young boy that talked to me in the beginning was standing there. And he told me, in Japan, there's 2 sets of cars. There's the normal section of cars, and then there's the business class. So he tells me that I'll have to do it again, except the rules have changed and they've flipped. If there's an anomaly, I have to run ahead, and if it's normal, I turn around and go back. I enter the train car, and it's different. There's a concession cart being pushed by a train stewardess. Move forward a little bit more, and there is just the creepiest human I have experienced, sitting in the seat with a glowing green eye in what looks like a dark middle part of the train. I look around and take it all in for the first time. Pass through the doors, and that car said 7. Now I'm moving into car 6. And as I pass through the doors to car 6, the room is filled with a fog, as if we're flying through the skies. And I look out the windows, and it literally looks like I'm on a plane. Like, just the exact atmosphere of a plane. This is very clearly an anomaly, and I move through this relatively quickly. I move on to the next car. I look down, it says 5. As I move into this car, I think everything is fine. And then the sign that's at the top above the door starts flashing. Red means stop, green means go. And if you've ever played red light, green light in school, that's kind of the principle behind this. But it doesn't make any sense. So I just keep walking, even though it says that. I read it, I acknowledged it, but whatever. And as I'm walking forward, some big, red, almost demon-looking thing jumps out and absolutely terrifies me. And then it runs away. At this point, I'm ready to play their little game. So as I keep proceeding through the car, because clearly this is an anomaly, I have to go forward. I move into the next car and I look down at the floor and it says 4. But in car number 4, there's already an obvious change, and it's not a good one. The really, really creepy person is standing, and he's already relatively creepy, but you can tell he is much taller standing up than he was sitting down. Really don't want to pass by him, but I have to, because he's clearly doing something differently. So I walk by him. And as I walk by, he's just standing there. And then, after I get a few steps in front of him, he gets into the aisle and he begins running directly at me. And I sprint full speed towards the door, and I just make it through the door, and the door shuts. And you can still hear him banging on the door as I quickly move into the next train car, car number 3. Now, this car looks normal. It really does. I investigate every little part of this car, and I can't see anything that would look like it's an anomaly. And I go all the way to the front of this train car. I look back, and that same creepy guy is now no longer in that seat, but he's peeking out from one of the closer seats to me, as if he's now chasing me between the cars. But clearly there was an anomaly here. And so I left to the front of the car. And now when I move to the next car, I look on the ground and it says 2. I look all over this car. I look at every little thing here. And just as I'm getting ready to leave backwards, because this car seems safe, something catches my eye. The little ball posts that are jutting out from the top of the seats, there's eyeballs on those ball posts, and they're following me everywhere I go. I couldn't see them the other direction because the ball post looked fine, but These are very seriously eyes. So instead of going backwards, I go forward. And as I move forward between the cars, I look down, and I've now entered car number 1. And I don't see anything until I start to turn my head. And then I notice at the very front, these doors normally always stay closed. The door opened just slightly and then closed again. And then I waited, and the door opened a little bit, and then it closed. That's not right. The door has not done that. I knew that this was not the correct car. I move forward, and I get to the next car, and in that next car area, it says car 0. I'm almost there. This should be it. I keep going, and as I'm starting to go through it, I look at the beverage cart, and the beverage cart has a new item on it. It looks like a heart, a human heart that's been packaged up. It doesn't look appetizing to anybody, and it clearly is off. I move forward to the car, and as I enter this next area, it's different. I haven't seen this before. There's a door to the right, which looks like the door to get off the train. And as I move forward, it literally looks like the conductor's area on the train. And there's a button on there. And I hit the button, and everything feels much different as soon as I hit that button. And then I move forward a little bit, and I notice that the door to the left is open. But I feel like the young boy is trapped on the train, and I want to get him off too. So instead of going out the door, I move back in through the cars. And as I'm moving through the cars, I encounter the young woman. She tells me that the boy is not with her. That's her brother, and he must be somewhere on the train. I tell her I'll go the direction that I haven't gone and try to find her brother, and she can go back the direction that I was in and check the bathrooms and stuff there to see if he's in that part of the train. She agrees, and so I start moving back to check the train. As I'm moving between cars, I can see the numbers going by more and more, and about car number 4, I hear a female screech, and I edge my neck around, and I look just a little bit over my shoulder, and I see an absolutely terrifying visage of something unnatural, and I run away from it, not to it. That would be stupid. Why would I run to it? I run away from it as fast as I can because that's death. That is legitimately going to murder me, and I'm running. And as I'm running through this, paranormal things start happening. Seats start shifting out in front of me. I can't move fast. I'm being weighed down. As I run through the cars, eventually my feet start sinking into the floor, and I have to crawl my way through the train. And this thing is getting closer and closer and closer as I continue to run through the train cars. And I get to the last train car, and I clear right into the train car, and it's another conductor's area, and there's a button, and I push the button, and then silence. And I wait for that banshee to bust through that door and rip my heart out through my chest, because I know what it wants. It doesn't want to say hi. It wants to murder me. And as I'm waiting, I can see out the window, and there's a traditional Japanese city with the cherry blossoms. I mean, it's just the most serene, peaceful ambiance you would ever imagine. Barring the terror that's behind the door, I just am filled with peace. And as I'm looking out, I see the young boy, and he proceeds to tell me that it's not my time to get off of the train. I know that it means that the young boy is no longer alive. And so I stay on the train, and I go to move back in to the other area on the train. And as I do, everything goes black. I don't know if the banshee got me, or if I hit my head on something, or if I passed out. And I wake up, and the man that was trying to get his luggage out is hovering over me, and he says that I had deep vein thrombosis, and then I passed out. Behind that man, I could hear one of the train attendants, and he was telling that there was indeed an accident and that 2 people were dead. I can only assume that he's referring to the young boy and the young woman who was his sister, and that somehow they had died. But instead of them suffering and staying in purgatory on this train, in my weakened state, I was able to help them to move on to the other side. And as I got up, there was an ambulance waiting the next stop, and they took me away, and just sitting in the hospital, decompressing and just thinking about everything that had transpired, I was just so glad to not only be alive, but I just couldn't stop thinking about the young boy and his sister. And as I closed my eyes, just a vision of them among the peach blossoms hit me, and the amount of peace that they could finally have was incredible. And so this is clearly taken from the game Shinkansen 0. It's available on Steam if you're interested in playing it. I thank you guys so much for joining me, and I would really like it if in the comment section below you would tell me some of the creepy, scary stories that you have endured over the years. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.